Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and I am super excited about today's show because I get to talk to a fabulous lady. And not only is she doing wonderful things in the world, but our show today is going to be about one of my most fabulous topics to discuss. If you are a pet lover, then you definitely want to stay tuned to this show because we are going to be talking about lengthening and strengthening the human animal bond. And I am such an animal lover. So just giving you a precursor. Of course, if you already subscribe to the show, fabulous. But if you don't subscribe to the show, subscribe to the show and share the show with everyone you know, because the information that my guests bring to us on the show is just absolutely life transforming. And I wouldn't want any of you to miss out on information and words of wisdom that could really help you transform your life so you actually have that wellness, wisdom, and wealth that you desire. Now, I always like to start the show and say, find a place to sit, grab your favorite beverage. Today, I'm drinking some water. Can't even see it, but I'm drinking some water with fresh lemon and orange juice in it. And tell your family to give you a few moments. You're going to want to capture the nuggets of gold with regards to this beautiful topic that we're going to be discussing. And it'll be good for your mind, body, and spirit as we get ready for this phenomenal season that we're about to embark upon. So while you're doing that, let me take care of business. I want to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor, Blissful Living, for you at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. They have some phenomenal things on their site and access to information that you will not be able to obtain anywhere when it comes to wellness, wisdom, and wealth, and how you can utilize the principles of Ayurveda to bring that into your life or into your business. And the wonderful thing about Blissful Living for you is you can go and take the dosha quiz. The dosha quiz is your unique essence that was created at the moment of conception that no one else on the planet has exactly like you. It gives you insight into how you really ebb and flow, what foods resonate with your body, and some other wonderful things to help you stay balanced mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and spiritually. So you definitely want to check out Blissful Living for you, not only for the dosha quiz for yourself, but if you're a business owner or you run a team, then you want to take the dosha quiz for your business and have your team take it as well. And it will, again, give you a wealth of information as to if your team is actually doing the job that actually resonates naturally with how they ebb and flow here on planet Earth. So that's just a little bit about Blissful Living for you, but they have a wonderful amount of tools and videos and things of that nature to help you ebb and flow as you travel down your path to bliss. You can check them out at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The next sponsor is All Day Cable Incorporated. All Day Cable Incorporated is a woman-owned telecommunications installation company, first in the United States. They've been in business since 1990. And what they do is they do all things network distribution. So installing voice, data, fiber optic cabling, and all the way we communicate today, your access points, your wireless systems, anything that you need to help you make that right connection with your customer on the other end in this day and age. And again, they've been around since 1990. So they've been through before we had the internet, the embarking of the internet, and how we operate today with that we can't live without the internet. So if you're interested in having your telecom installation or your telecom systems upgraded, enhanced to move you into the future, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. And they do service small, medium, and large corporations. So now, let me tell you about the fabulous guest we have on today's show. Her name is Dr. Pamela Johnson, and she's the founder and chief executive officer of Veterinary Mastermind, LLC. Pet Lovers United is the flagship program, and it's one of her online membership programs that informs, educates, and empowers dedicated pet owners to provide excellent care for their pets and better collaborate with their veterinarians. I love that. Dr. Johnson received her Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Montevideo, where she was the captain of the basketball team. Woo, woo! She received a bachelor's degree from Auburn University as well, and her doctorate of veterinary medicine. Following veterinary training, she joined Dogwood Veterinary Hospital in Newman, Georgia, where she quickly became a partner and ultimately the sole owner. Her hospital was American Animal Hospital Association certified. It was the Small Business of the Year for the Coweta County and consistently Reader's Choice in the county magazine. Subsequent to her selling her veterinary hospital, she became a member of the Medical Advisory Board for Mission Veterinary Partners and Veterinary Corporation. Now, in 2024, Dr. Johnson, an avid student of leadership, founded her current business, and she attends the University of Notre Dame's Executive Education Program, Capital's Executive Leadership Program, and was an early member in the North American Business Association of Veterinary Hospitals, which is now called the Veterinary Management Group. She lives with her husband, and she resides in Georgia. She has 2 horses, 2 dogs, and 2 cats. And I just want to welcome you to the Blissful Living Podcast, Dr. Pamela. How are you?
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you. Thank you. That sounded better coming from you.
Oh, you're adorable. You're adorable. So, I want to jump into this conversation. As I stated, I am a huge animal lover. I've had dogs and, a cat. But I love animals of all. My favorite animal that I'm watching right now are the lions, because I plan on going on an African safari one day very soon. And so I love animals, and I know I'm a tiger. I ebb and flow, and I act just like tigers, do loners and all that kind of stuff. But the first question I want to ask you is, why did you choose to become a veterinarian?
That started I think, from the womb, to be honest. I've always had a connection with nature, animals, just being out in nature has always been my biggest place of peace. And I just felt like that was my calling from the beginning. I had a little bit of a diversion when I just didn't have confidence the first go around through college. But then I kept going. I kept coming back. And so when I decided to go back to school, to follow my true love, I just said, I've got to do it. And, I was nervous about all the sciences, the chemistries, the physics, that kind of stuff. But, when you follow your passion, you find a way. And I know that resonates with you already. So I think that, and once I made that decision and that commitment to go back to school, I never looked back. I've had a 30 plus year career in veterinary medicine, and I'm one of those people that I'm just so blessed to be able to say I've never ever regretted going to work a day in my life.
I love it. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast, because I want to hear more about your journey of becoming this phenomenal veterinarian. So I'll be right back. Stay tuned. And again, if you haven't subscribed, you want to subscribe to the show, stay tuned. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast in just a few moments. And welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. I am Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. And I'm with Dr. Pamela Johnson. And we're talking about what her journey was to becoming a veterinarian. We all know veterinarians are just as important to our animals as doctors are to us. And so I'm always curious about, the journey, because as a nurse, and I know my journey through nursing school, some of the stuff, is quite intriguing. So I want to digress a little bit, and I want you to share with me, what was that pivotal moment when you were in veterinary school that you knew that was the profession you were meant to be?
It was making the decision to to go back to school. I had a 4-year degree already. And so I was working in communications at the time. And to be honest, I was in a car accident. And fast forward, I thought I need to follow my dreams. And I'm not going to say it was an easy decision to make because, of course, you incur a lot of debt. There was another 10 years of school. But the instant, I'm glad you asked that question, because the instant that I actually came to that conclusion that I'm going to do this, that was the single, I would say, most pivotal turning point for me in most of my adult life, because I followed my passion. That's all you could ask for.
Wow, it's amazing. When I was before I went to nursing school, I had obtained an electrical engineering degree, and but due to the circumstances of the time, I wasn't. It just wasn't right. I couldn't get hired as electrical engineering in Silicon Valley because it was the 80s, and it just wasn't what we women do, right? But I went back to school and got the nursing degree. But what was one of the things that was pivotal for me was before I went back to school, my girlfriend, my best friend, was pregnant with a baby, with my nephew. And I was able to be in the delivery room with her and see my nephew being born, like front and center. And it was just such a beautiful experience. So when I did go to nursing school, I was able to deliver a baby as a nursing student. And believe me, I've delivered a lot of babies doing emergency trauma, backseat of the car, on the elevator, and all of that. But it was like this confirmation for me that I had chosen the right profession. And here I am 35 years later, and I'm still a licensed nurse in multiple states, not clinically practicing ER trauma and flight nursing anymore. But I think it was such a rewarding experience for me in nursing school to just be there with a mom who didn't know me from anybody and help that baby be born. So that's why I asked, because there's always these little moments that, if you have to think back, yeah, you made the decision, but that wasn't the pivotal moment. That wasn't the defining moment where you made the choice. It had to have occurred when you were in, school, and something was like just clicked. That you were meant to be this doctor of animals. It was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, there were, I would say that, I dare say that there were many moments, and it was almost like this continuum. I went through, it's interesting, even 11 years in, I remember a very significant moment in my career where I was feeling not depressed, but something, I could feel something churning, and I was feeling a bit of sadness. And all of a sudden, I realized that I had these wonderful relationships with my clients, and I had watched their puppies, their kittens, from the beginning of life to the end of life. And I was at that point where I was actually having to help euthanize these pets. And it was that realization for me was, I'm in the right place. And I always, as a result, one of the things I always tell my clients is that I hope it's okay that I feel like your pets are part mine. And because that's the way it feels. And that connection that you have with the pet owner and the pet. I like to say there's 3 ends to that leash, right? It's the pet owner, and the veterinarian, or the veterinarian team. And that is such a powerful, powerful relationship when you have that opportunity to go through every life stage and watch not just the pet grow up, but the children grow up, and the children experiencing the human animal bond and how powerful that is. So it's I can't say it was any single one event. It was a series of event that said, yes, you are on the right path, and keep doing what you're doing, which is frankly why I'm here talking to you now after I sold my brick and mortar practice that was very successful, God was telling me, you need to do more and you need to reach more people. So here I am.
I love it. I mean, I love it. I mean, you mentioned how, you may have had clients, so to speak, that the kids were small and they're bringing in the animals. I could totally relate, bringing in the animals and you're taking care. And as the animal has aged, so has the children. And now these children are teens or, they might even be grown in some cases. And, and then having to have this relationship with the family, so to speak, from the beginning, sometimes to the, having to euthanize the pet. It's a bond. It really is a bond. And it's a very special bond. People trust their veterinarians like people trust their doctors. You know what I mean? It's like animals are our kids. They're just a different type of kid, but my animals they're my kids. I love them like my kids. I scold them like my kid. I did my kids, it's just a beautiful relationship. And they're so, how can I say? They love so unconditionally, whether it's a dog or a cat or a horse or a bird or, a snake or a lizard or rodent. You know what I mean? They love so unconditionally. And it just shows how powerful love is. When you love something, no matter what that something is, that something opens up and shows you love back. And I know you've had a tremendous amount of experiences with that. We've got to take another quick break, but we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast with Dr. Pam Johnson in just a few moments. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, and I'm with Dr. Pam Johnson, and we're talking about her journey as a veterinarian and how lengthening and strengthening the human-animal bond is so important. I guess now I want to move into the second question, a real important question I have for you is, what advice would you give to a pet parent that enables them to give their pets the best care they possibly can at any stage of that pet's life?
What a great question. It really is about being what I would call proactive versus reactive. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are things that we need to understand about our individual pets' needs, whether it's a certain breed's needs or age's needs. And very often we don't speak the same language. So how do we learn to recognize the subtle clues, the subtle behaviors that very often are missed? And that's one of our, I guess, premises of why we do what we do, is to educate people. So what does good look like, and how can we not just extend life? I like to say we want to it's not just about quantity of life, it's about quality. And very often there are things that we can do to not only slow down the aging process, but extend that quality of life. And it comes down to understanding the nuances of how we really take care of our pets. And sometimes that's very difficult to get in a 15-minute visit with your veterinarian. So, talking about nutrition is very different from one pet to another. Talking about, managing their weight, talking about dental disease, oral health, and how it plays a role in either lengthening or shortening their lives. How to handle anesthesia. It's not one size fits all. And so those are the types of things one of the things I always say is there are so many things that I wish you knew as a client before you ever walked into my door, because it would help so much with that collaboration and that connection and continuing to build that and strengthen that human animal bond that we all care so much about. So, if I could lengthen that, that's what I want to do.
I love it. Share some of those things that you wish we knew before we walked into your door. Because I think, we're all about educating the masses, and I think people sometimes think they know, wow, I take my kids to the doctor, so you know what I mean? And it's not the same. So share a couple of words of wisdom with regards to what you wish we knew before we walked through your door when it came to, our animals.
So two things right away. I had a reputation for being very particular about your pet's weight. And that is it is literally one of two things that we have control over in our pets' lives is weight and dental health, or oral health, I should say. By keeping them at a healthy weight, you can add up to 2 years to your pet's life. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. And then number two is the incredible amount of inflammation that occurs in the mouth if we don't take care of their gums and their teeth. It actually can facilitate heart disease. It can facilitate inflammation that extends to other places of the body, the kidneys, the liver. It actually, I don't want to underestimate the pain that they're going through that people don't recognize either. But those two things, maintaining a healthy weight throughout their entire lives and maintaining a healthy mouth, are two big things that can help maintain quantity and quality of life. I could talk about this all day long. So.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. It's funny. I have an Australian Shepherd, and he's smart. I always say he's like a 7-year-old kid. It's just way too smart. But ever since he was a puppy, he always liked to come into the bathroom with me. I'm washing my face and doing my facials and brushing my teeth. And so right at a very, when he was a puppy, I started brushing his teeth. And it's so funny because every morning he comes in the bathroom, he sits there and watches me, he wants me to put stuff on his face or whatever. But when the moment I say, do you want your teeth brushed? He looks right at his toothbrush and the toothpaste because I keep it in his own little jar. And he will sit there and let me get his teeth brushed. And then I always tell him, okay, now go show daddy. And he proudly prances out there and he does this like little grin, like, look, I got my teeth brushed. But I think that's so cute because I've had a lot of dogs over my course of living, and some of them weren't really fond of it. It's like I had to kind of hold them, especially the little ones. I had to hold them down and, kind of get in there. But he is just like, oh my gosh. And I always say, your teeth look so pretty. You're going to be, you're going to live a long time. You got pretty teeth. And he just grins.
I need to have you talking to all of my clients. You're the queen again of what to do with your pets. So God bless you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it just was funny. He just right away took to wanting to be in the bathroom with me in the morning and, wash my face and all that kind of stuff. And he just was always so curious. So I just started doing little stuff to him. And now every day he comes in there. It's super cute. We got to take another quick break, but we'll be right back with Dr. Pam because I'm loving this conversation about animals.
Sure.
It just makes me so giddy. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast. Stay tuned in just a few moments. Okay, welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. And I'm with Dr. Pam. We're having this wonderful conversation about animals. I want to ask you this question. Now, we talked about, what you think as animal mommies and daddies, we should be really watching for the teeth of our animal. We should be checking the teeth of our animal. And I would say that would go for cats as well, making sure they maintain a healthy weight. And I'm pretty sure making sure they get some exercises and all of that good stuff. And then, of course, coming in for their checkup. What is the number one thing beyond the teeth and the weight that you see that people tend to neglect or overlook that is easily correctable?
Basically what I would say is orthopedic health, because it's something that very often people start to miss the subtle clues that our pets start to have as they mature. So that subtle hesitation before your Australian Shepherd jumps on the couch, or before the cat, used to maybe, jump readily off of the back of the couch, but they might slide down that couch instead of just jumping. And I've had a lot of people think that it was a behavioral issue when a cat wouldn't go into a litter box, when in fact it was just so painful for the shoulders and the elbows to just get in the box. And so it's one of those things that very often they're misunderstood. Their behaviors are misunderstood. And anxiety, as an example, it goes up with pain, just like it would with us. So as our dogs and cats get older, we have to start paying more attention to why are you acting this way, and what's different about what you're doing now versus what you did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and recognize that there's usually a medical reason for that. And oh, by the way, there's some proactive things that we can do to help slow that down. And, it's waiting until, right? I said it at the very beginning, it's taking a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach to their health care. And so I always tell people, ask your veterinarian, how can I be proactive in my pet's health care?
Thank you for sharing that, because, I think about my cat, and he was the only cat I had. And he lived to be 16, and he was just a fierce hunter. He was indoor, outdoor. I had a, little, I want to say doggy door, but it was a pet door because I had 2 dogs and 2 little dogs and a cat. And I did notice as he aged, he wasn't as fierce of a hunter. Sometimes he just look at the, if it was, whatever, I'm going to say rodent or whatever, kind of lived out in the country or whatever. He would just look at it like, I really don't feel like chasing it today. Whereas when he was younger, he'd be bam, pounced on it and it's dead. You know what I mean? It was just little subtle things now that I pay attention. But what was one really interesting thing was I had a Shih Tzu, and then I got my cat, Jordan. He was a kitten. And they kind of grew up together. The Shih Tzu was 3 and Jordan was just this baby kitten. And she kind of took him in, but was like, what is this? But long story short, they grew up together and they were like brother and sister. Yeah. When we had to put her to sleep at 16 because she had started having seizures and was diagnosed with cancer, he mourned her. Even though I had already had the little Chihuahua, he mourned her. He would go around looking for Mia, and going to the places where they used to play and lay in her bed. Or it was just a really interesting experience. And so I think of that like, animals are very perceptive. And sometimes we miss the subtle nuances that we should be paying attention to because we just think, oh, they're just animals. They don't experience things like we do, but they do. They do. I want to ask you this question because I know a big question that people have out there. With all the different foods we see for particularly our animals on TV, you got the, I can't even say the names because there's so many of them, but you've got the regular stuff that's the dog chow and stuff you see, and then which is not good food. But then you have the other ones, the blue. What else?
Is it blue buffalo?
Yeah, blue buffalo. And then you've got the kind that you put in the refrigerator. And what should we be feeding our dogs and cats? And this is stuff really, the stuff that they put in the refrigerator, you see that looks like, is it really, really much better than some of the other stuff that's just dry?
So this is where really highly effective marketing comes in, okay? And I lecture on this topic because it is very, very difficult anymore to discern, looking at a bag or looking at a can or looking at a tube, whatever it is, to discern the quality of the ingredients, the digestibility of those ingredients. Are they what's best for my pet? And what is the quality control in terms of how this is made? Where are those ingredients sourced? You mentioned a brand just now that is an example of a very, very highly effective marketing campaign. but that doesn't mean that it's a very good pet food. And so it's one of those things where I actually, in our membership site, we go through what are the things that you should be asking of your pet food company, wherever you're getting your food, to find out whether or not this truly is not only a good and healthy diet, but the right diet for your pet, because one size doesn't fit all. And right now there's some huge marketing campaigns out there because it's a multi-billion-dollar market. And some of the top selling foods out there are not the best diets out there. Some of them are causing pancreatitis. Some of them are actually causing heart disease because they're missing certain ingredients that are critical to maintaining heart health. And you're not hearing about those things. What you're hearing is an incredible marketing campaign and all these little words that are on the front of the bag, holistic, and just I could go on and on. They mean absolutely nothing. They mean absolutely nothing when it comes to digestibility and overall, providing the best health for your pet. So every pet requires something uniquely different. And that's where your veterinarian can help you with that. With cats, it's even worse because if they're feeding the wrong things, it can lead to them having urinary tract disease. Again, people think it's a behavioral issue. It's not. It's a medical issue, and they're in pain when they're going through some of these episodes where either they can't urinate or they're urinating inappropriately. It's not out of spite. It's because they're uncomfortable and because they're ill. So thank you for asking that question, because it is something I'm particularly passionate about, which is nutrition. And there's a lot of trendy diets, but it doesn't mean they're good.
Okay, so now here's the flip side of that question. What should we be looking for, for our animals that we should be feeding them? What should we be what type of ingredients should we be looking for? And we already know, you just said we should be paying attention to the labels, but if we don't know what we should be looking for, how can we make sure that we're providing the right nutrition for our pet? Can you share with us wisdom with regards to that, please?
Yes, absolutely. And you cannot look at the label. Just forget about looking at the label. You cannot tell anything about it. And so you literally have to go to the company and ask questions like, what is the digestibility of your diet? Is it a high digestibility, so 80, 90% plus, or is it down in the 40 to 50% range? So in other words, are they, I hate to say it, but is the same amount going out as came in? In other words, are you seeing a lot of extra stool, a lot of frequency? That's one indicator. Two is, where do you source your ingredients, and how many other pet foods are made where your pet food is made? And what type of sanitation, what type of cleaning do you do in between diets? And so, what kind of science is backing the nutritional claims that you're making? So, I could talk about this a lot, but those are some just very basic questions that I would ask. And if they get defensive, or if they don't answer you directly, that's an answer.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, because like you said, the marketing, that's with pretty much everything. If they've got the marketing down to a science, then people they just make it so believable. You know what I mean? It's I can take this to the whole gamut, but yeah, they make it so believable that, oh dang, I should be getting that food that I put in the refrigerator that's delivered every day or whatever, and it may not be.
I can tell you a really quick story where this was an individual who made a lot of money on pet food, and he was asked privately, how did you learn so much about pet nutrition? And the answer was, I don't know anything about pet nutrition. I just know how to market. So there you go. And that is the story again and again and again. Just because it has a movie actor's or an actress's picture on the bag, or or just because they're promoting it, frankly, doesn't mean that it's a good pet food. It means they're making money off of that pet food.
Wow. Wow. Very interesting. Wow. It's insane because, a lot of times we believe what we see on TV. Well, not a lot of times. Most of the time we believe what we see on TV, particularly when they start highlighting the benefits, and things of that nature, or, it's plant source or whatever the case they utilize marketing. It's like women with our skincare. It's like, oh, rub this on your face and you'll look 25 years younger, and you buy it and you look 25 years older. You know what I mean? It's the marketing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we know, but it's the marketing. And so I'm loving this. The next question I want to ask you, and it particularly comes to the urinary health of our babies, our fur babies. We don't often know what they're going through when they're having trouble urinating or problems with their urinary system. Is there a way? And the reason why I'm asking this is because I had a friend who's both her dog and cat started doing some really different things when it came to their normal urinary pattern. And she's like, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm like, did you take them to the vet? Oh, girl, I ain't got no money for that. They're just going to tell me, whatever. So long story short, the cat ended up having bladder cancer. And one of the signs was the urine and the urinary pattern, like you were saying, and the way the urine was presenting or excreting itself from the animal. What should we be looking at, not only just with regards to their bones and their muscles and their eyes and their teeth, but when it comes to the urinary health, particularly if we're people that are not familiar with medical stuff for either humans or animals? Is there anything that we should be looking at? Because I know urinary health is very, very important for our babies as well.
It really is. I'm so glad you bring that up. You look at everything from how much water are they drinking a day, how often are they going out to urinate. I recommend that people actually watch the stream of urination, because if you're actually watching them go to the bathroom, whether they're urinating or defecating, you get an idea of what their normal is. And so when you start to see, oh, it seems like you have to go out more frequently than you used to, or it seems like you're not urinating as much at one time, or it almost looks like maybe you're straining to urinate. And similar with defecation, one of my running jokes is their stool should be kickable. In other words, if you kicked it, you wouldn't get any on your shoe. And people laugh at that, but you're never going to forget it. And, and so it's one of those things where with water, they have to have clean access. It has to be clean water. I recommend, cleaning their bowls frequently. And again, paying close attention. If it's a cat, you get an idea of how often they're going into the box and how often they're urinating. And if you start to see either much smaller urinary piles or much bigger urinary piles, both of those are cause for concern. And similar with dogs, if you have a dog that's going out and having to squat and then squat and then squat to urinate, that's a red flag. And the sooner we act on that, the better we are likely to do something about it. I always tell people you can avoid things for only so long, because a lot of times people go, oh, it's too expensive. Well, guess what? It's going to be a lot more expensive later if we don't do something proactive, because if they have a UTI, a urinary tract infection, or if they have a bladder stone, which by the way does happen in dogs and cats, the sooner you act on that, the better. And then through the right nutrition, then we help prevent those from reoccurring. So it's a really good question that you ask. It's so important that you just don't let them outside to go to the bathroom and not pay any attention. You really need to be watching, because those routines matter. And more importantly, the shift in a routine really, really matters. So pay close attention to that.
Wow. Thank you so much for this information. It's very informative. And I know people watching and listening to us are taking notes. And if they're not, they should be, because if you have an animal, it's they're like our babies. Then, like you pay attention to your kids, you should be paying attention and giving your kids, your animals that much attention as well. So we've got to take another quick break, but we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast with Dr. Pam. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson and Dr. Pam. Now, Dr. Pam, I want to make a shift. Thank you for so much education. Oh, there's one more question I have with regards to the health of our fur babies. Their eyes. Their eyes, their eyes and their hearing. Because what I noticed with my Chihuahua, who is 16, a while back, I just thought, I'm like, we let her out. I'm like, come on in, come on, Diamond. And she'd look at you and be like, okay, but she did that all the time. But then it got to the point I'm hollering, like, come in, and she wasn't even looking. I'm just like, oh, she's just being stubborn. And then I realized, I'm like, I think she's getting, a hearing deficit. And same thing with the Shih Tzu. So is that another, factor, is we don't really think of our pets losing their hearing or, having vision problems. Is there signs and symptoms that we could pay attention to with regards to those two organs that could be precursors to something that could either be prevented or that we need to take care of?
Yeah, and this is, again, potentially a long conversation, but you want to start at a young age, number one, looking for things like excessive tearing, redness. A lot of people don't recognize, they just think, oh, they're just crying. But if you're seeing excessive tearing in your younger pets, there's something going on, and there's a long list. And so I can't go into all of that, but you want to make sure that your veterinarian is taking a close look at not just the eyes, but the eyelids and the eyelid margins, the outside corner, the inside corners. As they age, do we expect some decrease in hearing and vision? Yes, we do. If it's sudden, that's much more concerning. But if it's a subtle change, then yes, there are things that we need to pay attention to. They get glaucoma just like we do. And guess what? You don't necessarily know it. And it's a very, very painful condition in dogs and cats. But very often people miss the early signs, and then it becomes, again, too late, because there are topical treatments, there are other treatments that are available for those kinds of things. Obviously, they do get cataracts, so that's, and some of that is, again, normal aging. Some of that can be associated with other disease processes like diabetes and hypothyroidism. There's something called hyperlipidosis. So there's a long list there. And so I want to say something about, you mentioned, oh, they're just being stubborn. Our pets are almost never just being stubborn. There's something wrong. And we have to go, okay, be curious about what's happening in my pet's life. And why is this different now than it was 6 months ago? And paying close attention to those things, because again, very often there are things that can be done to help if we catch it early enough.
Oh, love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Now I want to shift into what made you close your practice?
So my practice, I didn't close it.
Or sell your practice.
I did sell it. I had gotten to the point, and thank you for asking that, because this is a very pivotal point in my life. I had gotten to the point where I had this incredible practice with a great team of empowered people, and I had gone through all these cycles of being a business owner, and I'm a particular, I love leadership and leadership development and developing healthy cultures. And I'd reached this point where I'd kind of felt like I wasn't being challenged anymore. And I am one of these people that I have a very significant growth mindset, I would say. And I kept saying, I even said to my husband out loud, I think I need a bigger stage. And I couldn't believe I said that, because I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. And so that led me to going, how can I reach more people across this planet than just in my single brick and mortar business? And how can I educate on a broader scale? How can I get the message out there that, hey, if you have a bulldog, the anesthetic procedure is very different than if you have a greyhound, than if you have an Australian shepherd, and so those are things that I want people to get out there. Why is one spay and neuter really, really inexpensive and another one much more expensive? There are answers to that question, and they're very meaningful for people. Why am I so passionate about teaching people how to take better care of their pets' skin health? I used to see a lot of allergic skin disease, and people go online and they Google and they think, oh, it's all about the food, which, by the way, is really, really rare. It's usually about the environment. But there are things that we can do to protect the skin barrier at an early age to either prevent or slow down allergic skin disease in our pets. And what role does diet play if any at all? And so it's how do I reach the masses? We don't want this to just be something that's within the United States. We want it to be worldwide, because that human-animal bond exists all over the world. And so we want to make sure that we're reaching a bigger ripple, right?
Yes.
We want to create a movement across the country and the world so that people can have their pets here longer and keep them healthier and feeling better longer too.
I love it. I love it. A broader reach, more global education is powerful. And the more we can educate people around the world with regards to how we can successfully and proactively take care of our animals, the better it is. Animals are just they're amazing, from the zebras to the horses, from the lions to the dogs, from the tigers to the cats, from the monkeys to the birds. They're all just so beautiful, and there's so much we can learn from them. And just being able to have that global reach where you're educating people around the world about animal health and how they can do better, be better for their pets is beautiful. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, how can people reach out, find out more about you, connect with you with regards to, learning more about what to help them manage their animals?
Our website is petlovers-united.com. That's one location. I'm Dr. Pam Johnson. A little bit tougher to find me on Facebook, but Pet Lovers United is on Facebook as well. We have a private Facebook page that's Pet Healthcare Questions, I think it's called. But I think the number one is probably going to our website at petlovers-united.com. We have everything from a free newsletter, a free membership, all the way up to something that is more personal and more direct contact, so that if you have a special condition, if your pet's going to have a major surgery and you want to understand all of your options and all of your choices, then you have direct access to me through our website. And so that's where I would probably direct most people to go.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pam. It's been amazing to have you here and educating us and talking with us and sharing words of wisdom about how we can better manage the health and well-being of our fur babies and the animals that we have in our lives. So thank you so much. I love the work that you're doing. Of course, I'm an animal lover. So of course I'm, and the nurse in me is just like, yeah. But to those of you out there, her information will be in the show notes. You've got her website. If you have questions, you want to reach out to her, you want to join her membership, whatever it is, I highly suggest that you take advantage of it, because right now it might be free, but you never know if she gets real known, like animal Dr. Doolittle, so to speak. It may not be free, so you want to get in on the opportunity, and the education and wisdom that she shares can help you to better navigate and manage your particular fur baby in your life. So thank you again, Dr. Pam. I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at blissfulliving4u.com, and All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. And if you have not subscribed to the show, subscribe. And then, of course, share the show with everyone you know. I am Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, and it's been a pleasure having you, Dr. Pamela Johnson, here with us, and all of you watching and viewing, and that will be sharing and listening to this show. It's a blessing to have you as well. Take good care. And until next time, I'm wishing you and your fur baby peace, wellness, and tranquility. Until next time. Goodbye for now.